These are my football. This is what I wear when I coach.
Yeah, but they're still track pants.
They're track pants.
Yeah, they are. What else are they?
I mean, more like baggy tracksuit pants.
but they're the
They're no,
track
there's no
pants.
fleece in these.
They're tights.
There's no fleece in them. They look like tights. They're
Everybody's looking at my tight pants.
I got my tight
Pants.
Welcome back to the Chip Lunch podcast. It is the OG3. It's a long time since we've been back together, but
Here
with the
since F1, bro.
yeah, here since
OGs.
Day one.
That's right.
Started at the bottom.
Now we're
Yeah.
here. Now the whole team. Don't do the swear word, Joel. This is we're going to do Ethan's part 2.
Yay.
Hey, part 2.
Patu.
Part 2.
Duh. Yeah, duh.
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 That's French, right?
Oui.
Duh.
No, we are not French.
We are not French. How are we feeling today, Brandon? You're in your sling.
Yeah, I think was it Lewis's episode. I think we were recording Lewis's episode, and I was filling out forms for pre-admission to going to surgery.
I think you were.
Yeah,
Mm.
I don't know if we talked.
Then
about
you had to
that
go
on the
home
podcast.
to fill
I
out
did
more
have to
forms.
go. Oh yeah, so all of I don't have like I don't know. Like you were talking in your last half about having like a note in your thing that has
Oh, all the things
things-
wrong.
Yeah, all
Which
the
I
things
think-
wrong with Ethan.
Did your dad name it All the Things Right with Ethan?
Yeah,
I don't
someone
think
tried to
I have
change the
memory
name.
of that. Anyway,
Yeah.
um,
I just changed it back.
yeah. But I have had a few things in my life, but nothing, nothing crazy. And yet this hospital thing took me so long to fill out.
Which is outrageous.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I put the allergy on there that then got ignored, and then I had an allergic reaction
So
to
this is the skin thing.
the bandages.
Yeah, to the
Yeah.
bandages.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
that's-
yeah.
Nice.
But anyway, that was Lewis's episode.
Can you put in you're allergic to bad forms?
I wish.
I'm allergic to red tape.
But yeah, I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to you.
Welcome to you. Thank you. And welcome to you, Ethan.
Oh, I feel so welcome. That's so good.
You were on last week.
Oh, yeah, I was. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like some consistent, get
Fish.
some runs on the board. It's great.
Did you say he's a consistent fish?
Well,
I know that's his-
There is some
fish.
consistent fish.
Well, he's just consistent fish in your life. It's always good.
I was laughing because I listened to part one last night. I was chuckling when you were talking about people calling you fish because I do it without even thinking. And then other people are like, who is fish?
Well, that's what I was like. I hadn't heard him called fish before.
Yeah, I was at Miranda, I think a couple of weeks ago, and Ethan was preaching. And then someone asked me about, like, because I was here early to do music or something. Someone was like, oh, who's preaching? I'm like, oh, fish. And they're like, what?
Who?
What
What?
are you talking about?
There's a fish preaching.
There is a fish preaching.
Yeah, I know you guys have had some guest preachers, so this is the last.
It's been
strip.
fun, but I've had the same thing with Fox at Miranda. Like, I just say it without thinking, and then people are like, who is
that?
Speaking of someone we need to get on the podcast,
Yeah,
Riley
Fox.
Fox.
Riley Fox.
I'm trying.
Riley.
Riley.
Robot man.
Riley, reach out. I've been reaching out to you. Reach out and touch somebody. Who's that? John Farnham?
No.
Reach out and
Is it? Maybe it is.
no, I don't think it's John
it is.
Farnham. Reach out.
Speaking of bad music, picking up from podcast one,
What was on podcast?
you spoke
one?
about Jonas Brothers for quite a while.
Oh yeah, we did actually, and how that dude was there. And you were
Well,
just like,
it's
just don't go if you're
just
not
don't
gonna.
go. Just
You're
don't
just
go.
gonna be angry and cranky the whole time.
I
Honestly.
wish I was less. I've met a few people like Fish or like a friend Jai Lewis,
Yep.
who has no inhibitions about music, just loves
Yeah.
like what
I
they
do,
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish I was like that.
I'm the same
I'm
as
like,
you.
I wish I wasn't cynical.
I get angry if I get into a catchy tune and I'm like, I hate this song. I
But
don't want to sing
I
it.
think I do like melodies. It's like designed to be catchy.
Yeah, that's what they're for.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
I
Thanks
think
for
it's like it's good to like
helping me process.
anything.
It's good to like just anything in the
Or
whole
when you were
world.
younger, you just like be like, oh, this sounds good.
Mm.
Whereas now I'm cynical and like,
Oh, I was like that in high school. I'm like, this sucks.
yeah.
You know, this song is crap. Like that's what I was like.
I think I like people who write their own music.
Thank you.
I like, but I like that's a whole different thing.
Sorry, I'm just
There's a
listening to
car
this
alarm.
alarm.
Yeah,
This
can you
car
hear a
anyone
car
hear the
alarm,
car
everyone?
alarm?
Whose car do you think that is?
Not mine. I didn't drive.
I don't have an alarm.
I've
you
never
wanna
heard
break
my
into-
alarm. I would not know if it was my alarm.
That's cute. Ethan just trying to break into his car all the rest of today.
Yeah.
Like those ones that have the voice. Step away from the vehicle.
Oh wow.
What? Car alarms have that?
Oh, there's like, I'm sure there's
That's
custom
fancy.
ones that you can get. The other ones that I don't like is the ones that they connect it to the actual horn, which is like that one was.
Yeah.
So they just like, "Wah, wah, wah." Anyway.
Yeah.
Does
Excellent.
anyone actually react to a car alarm though? I feel like everyone just goes,
Unless I reckon if you're trying to break into it, it does.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I more meant like I don't think I've ever had someone be like, "Oh no, my car alarm's going off. Someone's obviously breaking in." It's always just like a big eye roll
Oh, right.
of everyone.
Yeah, I think it's because people like go and turn it off. Like,
Yeah, that's
if it doesn't like then that one, if it doesn't turn off, it
Yeah.
means probably someone's trying to get into it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But I think,
is that-
isn't it a deterrent to the
Yeah.
person?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to do something sneaky.
Yeah.
And now there's a really loud alarm.
I guess it's like
Yeah,
a
and
drawing
while I'm
attention.
doing this sneaky thing, now someone is coming to come and
but
turn
it's a
this
bit
off.
like a smoke alarm where it's like 99% of the time it goes off.
Yeah, it's
not
just the wind.
because of
Yeah,
fire.
it's just the
Yeah,
wind.
it's
like,
true. It's
Yeah.
totally true.
yeah.
Yeah,
We used to
this
have a
is true.
thing at my old work where they're all in these old heritage buildings,
Mm.
but and it was like this group of buildings. So like they were like, it was an old abattoir. That's where it was. So at Homebush, like at Olympic Park,
Yeah,
it's originally part of it was that there was an abattoir there, and so they had the
Olympic abattoiring.
no, there's nothing Olympic about it until they decided that's where they're going to build the main stuff for the Sydney 2000 Olympics.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were saying they built an abattoir with the Sydney Olympics. And I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
could.
that's
Yeah,
exciting.
that's well, like one of all those other weird sports in the Olympics, like
Yeah.
painting and stuff.
Oh,
It
it's
was
for
an
post the equestrian.
Jeez. That's abattoiring. I've got a gold medal in abattoiring.
yeah.
So they were all heritage buildings, so they didn't knock them down.
Mhm.
But it was all this group of like 5 or 6 buildings. And we were our office was in the biggest one. But then like all the fire alarms were linked for some reason.
Yeah.
So someone would have someone was smoking somewhere
Yeah.
at a building somewhere else, and it would set the fire alarms off for all
Welcome
of them.
to living in South Village.
Yeah,
Cole's
exactly.
Bakery.
Oh,
Evacuating.
Bakery,
Oh,
was
the amount of times they evacuated all of us.
What were they burning though?
Oh,
How
they
long
were
were
just
they
wood, I
baking
don't
bread?
know.
it would just something would happen. Something
yeah.
would happen.
It was
And-
always like Coles or like one of the
or the gym across the road.
Yeah,
or-
would
The
set-
gym.
yeah.
Oh yeah, they would.
Bro,
But they would set off like a whole tower.
The gym had a faulty alarm system,
Yeah.
and it just went off all
Yeah.
the time.
and the whole tower would get evacuated.
yeah, and then the next tower would get evacuated,
Yeah.
and the next because they'd hop.
Yeah.
You'd listen to them, so you're lying there at,
Oh, the alarms
at
would.
2 a.m,
Yeah.
and the alarms are just hopping from building to building.
That's
Yeah.
no good.
Shout out to when I used to work at the hospital. Level 3 weren't allowed to have a toaster
Nice.
because they had set the alarm off.
Yeah, because that happens in like office buildings in the
Yeah,
city too.
it's just
Someone's
like-
like, "I'll
No,
put some toast
sorry,
on,"
level 3, no toaster anymore.
and then they go to the toilet or something, and then leave the toast on for too long. Like,
yeah.
also, who's burning their toast? Get used to the toaster.
There's a button.
And
There's a
turn-
dial.
adjust.
guys. Who turns the dial?
Oh, I do.
Who turns?
But
the
like
dial?
after you get us, like you go, okay, cool. I know.
Oh, you know.
Oh,
what it is.
yeah.
I know that my
you know
toaster.
the baseline, and
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, raisin toast cooks a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Okay, like this bread's coming out of the freezer. It's going to take a little bit longer, but you know where your baseline.
Yeah,
is.
but you're not sitting there going, all right, I need one. Let's go 10.
Crank it.
Let's max.
Yeah.
I need
Like-
this quick.
I'm like, no.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you think it's more time, or is it like time toasting? Because it doesn't turn up.
Doesn't
a different
feel like it
temperature,
does.
No, because it'd be the same temperature, like heating up the sides of the toaster. You
You'd
know,
think so,
you've
yeah.
got those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you to the faithful remnant that are still around
Mm.
after listening to us talk about toast.
Well done.
Well, I called them unintelligent in Emily's first episodes.
Wow. Okay. You
Yeah,
really.
so if anyone's even back, well done.
we promise.
Welcome, guys. Welcome
It gets
back.
better.
It does. It might get better. We'll
It
see.
might get
We'll
Who
better.
see.
knows? Who knows?
Still chicken salt.
Yep. And
Always.
or gravy.
Yeah, gravy was a good
Gravy is
addition.
best topper.
That
I-
chip and gravy roll from UAW.
The best. The dream. Like KFC chips with gravy, like it's a good time.
It's interesting that KFC do the
Sort of
gravy,
Robusto.
don't they?
Yeah. It's
Didn't
awful.
know they used to do the gravy and the. They still do this, Hudson. The gravy and the potato, the mashed potato together in one thing. He's just getting the.
Yes. or you can get it separate.
Oh, okay.
But not
Oh.
the potato separate, just the gravy separate.
Yeah, I think you'd want the gravy separate. I don't know. There's something weird about that.
Yeah, totally. Right, let's move on to more important matters.
Where?
Yeah, I was going to talk about myself.
Wow.
Where did we get up to? We talked about, you kind of talked about uni,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of, I think we were saying the next episode was we'll talk about meeting Katie.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you
Yeah.
preview this episode, it's like nothing happened between.
Well, I was just saying,
university and
post
getting
high
married?
school, like we've talked about. We've talked a lot about. I've been on this. I've had the pleasure of being on this podcast before, and so you guys have had to do a lot of listening to me about this kind of stuff before. So we've done a little bit of coverage across the board. But for people who haven't, we can definitely go over stuff again. But yeah, it was just like I don't know, the stuff that happened between uni and marriage were just kind of, I don't know, loading points.
Well, you said you knew you
Often.
wanted to be a pastor, but
Yeah.
you just had to try and figure a few things out in between. So I guess,
What were those things?
well, like,
Get some life.
yeah, exactly.
Get some life
do uni-
experience or
Yeah, no, like get some
Just
life experience,
get
and just
life.
I think it was really important coming out of high school and doing year 13 and realizing. So coming out of high school and going, okay, I'm going to do year 13 and then I'm going to do uni, and that period of time will help me figure out if I want to be a pastor or not. Because I'm pretty sure I want to be a pastor. However, I'll do this, and then I finished year 13 and I was like, no, actually, this is what I want to do. I want to be a pastor for sure. And so, however, it wasn't, let's just go straight. A bunch of my friends from that went straight into YouthWorks College and then into Moore College. And that was really cool of them. But I think that I needed some time to grow up a little and have some time in the workforce and have some time at uni and have some time in different spots and, get a little life under my belt.
were you thinking that in are you saying that in hindsight or you were thinking
No.
at
That
the
was
time?
the whole point. Yeah. I was like, I could go to college now, but actually, I should probably figure this out. So,
Is that kind of met like with Stu's thing of he didn't go to college until later? Like he was doing youth ministry.
I think it
went to
is a
college later.
strong recommendation
yeah,
before going to college.
people say it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just live a little.
Just live a little.
Or just like, if you're going to be pastoring people, I think it's a helpful perspective to know what it's like to have a job and
I agree.
Yeah. And stuff like that. And so, sometimes you need to have a dodgy boss or a whatever. Like, I don't know, just there's little life experiences that are
Yeah.
helpful. I did not have a dodgy boss. All my workplaces were delightful, and I kept coming back to finding that I accidentally worked for Christians, and I was like, damn it.
Oh, really? All signs point towards being a pastor. though.
Honestly, I was like, guys, come on. But yeah, it was worked with or for Christians for the whole time, which was delightful. We worked at Braden and I worked together at a before and after school care, which was a fabulous non-Christian environment, but it was also like it was you and me and Gemma and Tracy and Tyson, and there was like we were
Michelle?
Michelle. We all went to church together.
Yeah.
Which was really fun. And so that was really cool. And then the next job I got was working in real estate videography, which was super secular, other than all the videographers that I was with being Christians, which again I didn't mean to. They just were lovely. One of them wasn't, but the boss was, and he set a really lovely culture, and he did a really good job. And then I worked for a organization that did devotions that we put out onto the internet. So I worked from home and sat at a desk for hours a day, and I realized that you need windows in an office. It's really important. That was one of the big things I learnt by that. Natural light is important because otherwise you sit there and suddenly you get up out of your desk and it's nighttime and you're like, I've been here for too long.
Yeah.
But that was another time again that was delightful. That one I intentionally knew that they were Christians. I knew that coming in. But that was a different job again, and I did a few others too.
Can I ask you about video editing?
Yeah.
though? Because you have done a lot of it, and also you managed to stream 6 live gatherings in the first COVID lockdown, and then in the second COVID lockdown, when we kind of switched to more like this podcasty vibe, you were editing all day on a Saturday. So we recorded on a Friday. You would edit all day on the Saturday to make sure it came out on the Saturday night, which they'd take you 4 or 5 hours to edit all the episodes together.
Great fun.
Well, that's the one I'm interesting. See how you're saying great fun? Like you actually really embrace that. Why do you like editing, like video editing so much? Because if anyone knows me, or like I do edit the podcast sometimes, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
I found some home videos from when I was a kid, and I have always loved editing videos.
Yeah,
like actually always. And I'm not a very, I've said this a few times, I'm not very, I'm creative, but I'm not very creative when it comes to, like, I can't draw and I can't paint and I can't really write. And I can't do all these different things, and I can't even, like, visually, I'm not even super talented. So like if I was, one of the things I wanted to do growing up was I was like, I want to be a director of photography. So the main camera person in a film. And I realized actually I don't even have an eye for that. Like I got the basics down. But what I was really good at was redeeming the stuff I shot with a fun edit. Right. And that I really enjoy. That creative process is really fun for me. And I think, like there was a time where, like we talked about at the start about me wanting to be a pastor. Like there was, and I think I might have talked about this on the last time, but like I wanted to be a director at one point. I wanted to be an author at one point. I wanted to be a policeman at one point. But the first two were particularly like, because I love storytelling. And I love the creative process there. And I think editing actually enables is actually like you pull stories together when you edit. And I think that's really fun. Like even I've been editing. So by the time this comes out, it'll be a few weeks ago. But we just went on youth camp. We went on Origin. And I've just been like having fun mucking around, making some reels for that. And even as you make those kind of reels, you need to try and tell the story of the day, like despite like probably no one else can notice that I'm doing that, but there is a structure in a little edit as well as there is in a bigger edit that is really fun to work with and play with, and it's really good. And I've always really liked that process since I think I was really young. I used to just like make. There was a time in early high school, just on iMovie, where I would download songs off the internet and download like video game cutscenes and like make music videos out of video games, and that I really enjoyed because it was just the fun of making stuff was in the editing more than it was. And then my friends and I, like on the street, like usually people would go out. I don't know what you did with your friends, like maybe went to play soccer with your friends on the street. What I would do was with my neighbors, we would make videos together, and then I would edit those and we'd watch them, and it was really fun. We'd make little movies, and I did that. I reckon I was maybe 11, maybe 10. And making videos with my cousins, like that was just what we'd do, and then I'd edit it. So it's always been something that I've loved doing. It's been really fun.
Can you describe the feeling of when you're like just are you in a flow state and you're just editing for hours?
Yeah, I just lock in and I'm there. Like it's something that and maybe it's a because I actually enjoy it thing, but I've been writing an essay all day yesterday, and I wrote maybe like. I've never written slower in my life. I wrote like 3 sentences and then I scrolled on Instagram for a bit, and then I went and there's no way I can do that when I edit. When I edit, I'm just like, I'm locked in for as long as it takes to get the thing done, which is awesome. Like it's just a really, and sometimes like some edits are more fun than others. Yeah. Like towards the end of COVID, it was like, okay, I've edited the same thing for like 8-9 weeks.
It also went for a long time too.
And I'm editing for like ages. Yeah. So that got a bit tiring. But what was beautiful about that particular time was that I was given heaps of freedom creatively. And so I had heaps of fun doing a whole bunch of different random things. So like an edit may have been boring because we were splicing stuff together. But then the kids section was Jai talking with Lionel, who, for those of you who don't know, Lionel was a puppet played by Jai. And so like doing those kind of fun edits were really great. And having some, like, people would send in music that they'd recorded from home. And then I got to have fun overlaying them all because different people would play or sing or whatever the same song, and I got to put that together. So that was really fun. So yeah, within all of that, you get to do.
Yeah. And then the
spicy
weird,
things.
the crazy ones we did on Friday in the first lockdown.
Yeah, the Friday was so much fun. I made a Lego. We did a Lego one, which was we talk about all the time.
crazy,
We did one in the car, and it's just really fun to
Construction
put all
worker
this.
one.
Oh, it was
We
awesome.
did heaps of silly ones.
Heaps of silly ones. It was really, really fun.
What do you reckon is your most fulfilling edit you've ever done? Like, is there one that sticks out in your mind? You're like, over the years, you're like, I'm so proud of that one. Or I enjoyed that one at least.
This is really silly, but
This is what I was hoping
for youth one term we did go-karts, and
Yeah.
and I did an edit of I just ripped the Ford Ferrari trailer
Oh yeah.
off YouTube and I just edited all the times that there are cars in that trailer I replaced with footage of a youth night where we were racing go-karts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
And it's really silly.
Oh, it's just like Christian Bale being really intense about like cars and then like people pushing a go-kart.
yeah, it was really dumb. I really like it.
But you kept the sound. You kept the sound in the background. and
The
stuff?
whole
Yeah.
trailer is exactly the same, other than the footage of the people in cars. It's very dumb.
I think that's my favorite part of when we've got to have fun with videos together is like thinking of something unbelievably silly, and then you being able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And then it like my favorite edit you've done is probably the week away videos. Any of pick your favorite Brooklyn Nine-Nine intro.
No, they were
top
good. The
one,
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
the lightsaber battle, the cowboy one, but the spaceship battle in the last one I think was a particularly crazy edit. But then I think of just the silly.
I'll give the footage to Hudson. So
the
he can
silly
put that over there.
ideas
So if you're,
that
if you're listening, you can watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're
fun
like
ones.
amazing. Like Ethan has put hours and hours into learning how to use those skills. But then my favorite actual edit is at the end of one of the ones we got Lionel back. And I said to
yeah.
Ethan, do you know that meme where like it's all the English people in a pub when it was actually when England scored it in the World Cup final and Trippier scored the free kick and they all just lose their mind. They're like, we should put that at the end of the video so that when Lionel pops up, it acts like all these people are like, oh my gosh, Lionel's back.
Yeah.
And like, it was
so
funny, but I was sitting next to Cuz at the time who I loved. I think that's the fun thing is like you've put all this effort into editing and then you get to see people enjoy that.
Remember
I think
all the kids
getting to
responded
share
to
that skill with other
When
people.
Lionel came back in the video, they're like, Lionel! Like, it was so cool.
I think I talked about it a bit on my podcast with Joel, whereas like I feel very blessed that God made me excited about something like music that I can share with other people. Like it would be cool if I was fishing for Jesus or something. Like that'd be fun. But like something like video editing, which is like something you've been able to bless a whole bunch of the whole church community, especially during lockdown, but consistently through a bunch of things. It's pretty cool when he gives you an excitement and a passion for something that you can share with other people.
Yeah, and it is really fun. Like that at the end of the day, like it keeps coming back to. I often take big long breaks from making videos because I'm like a bit overwhelmed by it or I was a bit stressed by it because I think there's a part of it is I want to give a good quality product and I think that stresses me out a bit, and so I can fall into the trap of procrastinating a thing and then going, I didn't do a good job. It's like, of course you didn't because you put it off into the last minute. Anyway, so if I find myself doing that, I usually then take a break for a while. And every so often I come back to it and I'm like, I do love this. This is so good. Like I forget how much joy it brings me and how helpful it is to, I think so much of the video work I have done has been for church. Like as much as I made fun, silly videos, like growing up, most of the videos I've made have ended up being for church and for other miscellaneous church things. And And that's always been really excellent and really fulfilling, and always been the main go. Like even when I was doing the real estate stuff, like that was all really cookie cutter. Like that was, if you want boring editing, that's boring editing. And I probably could have had more fun with it, but I was just doing it. It was a job.
There's less storytelling in it though.
Yeah, there is. There's heaps less storytelling in it. It's here is the house. Look at the house.
Welcome to 57 Tree Lane.
Yeah.
I was thinking of what is it? Bangers and Mash? You ever seen that show, Bangers and Mash?
No.
Oh, do yourself a favour, bro. It's a cartoon. There's two monkeys called Bangers and Mash, and they live in number 3 Tree Lane.
Awesome.
They just
That's
get up
great.
to mischief, and they're only like 10-minute episodes or something, but they're really funny.
Awesome.
We'll YouTube that after the
Yeah,
episode.
sounds good.
Bangers and Mash. Bangers and Mash? What kind of name is that? That's like sausages and mashed potato. Why are the monkeys called that? Anyway, that's what it makes me think of. Number 3 Tree Lane. That's every time you got to put in a fake address. That's what I put in.
Okay,
Number
I was
3
thinking
Tree Lane.
42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
What's that one?
That's
Finding
Finding
Nemo.
Nemo.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's the address that's on the scuba
Yeah.
mask.
Right.
42 Wallaby
I used them
Way
at the suburb Bananaville. So okay, so you're like that kind of fit with your uni degree as well.
Yeah,
Communications.
well, that was so when as I said, I was being like, oh, I'll figure out when I finish school. I was like, oh, I'll do year 13 and uni, and by the end of uni, I'll have figured out if I want to be a pastor or I want to do this video side of stuff, this content creation stuff, because that's what my degree was. I did a communications degree at Wollongong, and it was so fun. Like I did nothing for 3 years. It was awesome. I had heaps of time to do ministry. I had heaps of time to work and just hang out with people. And when I was at uni, it was just chips and gravy. And like I had a subject where we watched movies. Like that was the whole subject. I had a subject
like in
where
shoots and stuff.
yeah, it's just a tutorial, and you go in and you're learning about the future. That was the idea.
Learning about the future.
And so you watch a movie about the
Past.
future.
Oh, the future.
No,
okay.
so you watch The Matrix, and you
Yeah.
watch like movies about
Space Odyssey or whatever.
Yeah, we watched Space Odyssey. We watched the Metropolis.
I was about to say Metropolis.
But we
Blade
watched
Runner?
them. We watched them in order. At Blade Runner, we watched them like kind of in order of like Metropolis. We watched first,
Yeah.
and as they got newer and newer, we watched them, and it was awesome. Like that was a great subject. I was at every one of those shoots. One tutorial that I never went to, like because I went to one of them, and it was on a Friday. I avoided. One of the awesome things about uni was that I was able to maximize my schedule so that I never went to uni on a Friday,
that's good.
which meant that I could come to church and hang out. And so I was pretty much from out of school all the way through to forever. I've had Fridays off and at church, and it's like as a volunteer, and it's been really fun. Anyway, it was on a Friday, and I rock up, and they're like, "Oh, this subject is the board game subject," and I'm like, "What is the board game
games.
subject?" And they're like, "Well, you have to. It's learning about like creatively making different things, and the way they're trying to teach creative design is they were like, well, let's show you a new medium, which is the board game." And I rock up, and there's like 10 board games or whatever out on the thing, and I was like, and they were like, "Oh, just play them." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "You go 3 hours, you can just play board games." I'm like, "This is the dumbest thing ever. Like, this is not a subject." And I went up to, I'm like, I'm driving all the way to Wollongong for 3 hours of board game playing, and then I'm going back to church. I'd rather just stay at church. And I walked up to the dude, and I'm like, "Hey man, like, I know the rules inside and out of every board game on this thing. I play board games. I'm a Christian, and I spend a lot of time at church
I'm a
playing board
Christian.
games." And I think he clocked that of like, "Oh, actually, that's pretty consistent." And he was like, "Yeah, if you know what you're doing, don't come." And so I didn't come.
Did you have an assessment or anything?
Yeah, you had to make a board game.
I did that in
It was awesome.
high school.
There was two. There was a group assignment where you have to make a board game as a group, and then there was a solo assignment where you had to make a board game. And the group assignment, I made a card game in the style of Apples to Apples.
Oh yeah.
And if you've played that, and it was called Hectic Haikus.
No,
And-
you didn't make people do poetry, did
No,
you?
we didn't. Well, we didn't have to actually play the game. We just made a presentation of a well designed
Oh really?
board game where one person would get a topic, and the other people would get cards that they could intersperse together to make a haiku about that topic. And it was the dumbest thing ever. But we got a HD because we looked like we cared.
Hudson's writing down the subject.
Yeah.
He's doing the same course, right?
Nah.
He's got to get the microphone.
I'm doing business studies, but I was thinking that I should just add media.
Yeah, just add comms on the end, just for a bit of fun.
I don't like board games enough to do that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's right.
It was an elective.
Okay.
To get me through. Like
I
it
once
wasn't
did politics in post-war Japan in a
awesome.
Yeah, the reason was because at University of Western Sydney, it's now called Western Sydney University, they have like multiple campuses, and the closest one is Bankstown campus. So it's super close.
Yeah.
You don't have to go that far.
The dream.
And politics post-war Japan, I had an elective. I'm like, well, I want to do Bankstown campus. And we went there. almost failed the subject. But I had
so
to
fun, though.
also make a board game in year 9 at high school.
Really? Do you
And
remember
it
what
was,
you made?
yeah, so I think we were reading Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
And so you had to make a Dracula board game.
Unreal.
And it was really cool. The guy I got paired up with, well, super close mates, but shout out to this guy, Cameron Mackey, because he could illustrate.
Oh, sick.
So it was really, really good. So I kind of came up with, we kind of came up with the concept, but I can't draw.
Yeah.
So we came up with all the cards and he drew stuff on them and it looked really, really cool. But we made it so hard to finish. Like you actually had to play it. We made it so hard to finish that like it ran over. I think if I remember correctly, it was like a full period of English playing it.
Awesome.
And then ran over into lunch. And we almost couldn't, like, because we just kept sending people back, like, go back here, like, and really annoying reasons. You just had to keep going back to this spot and then trying to finish again. But I don't think we finished it in the end. But
It's like an actual game of there's an actual board game about Dracula.
Yeah.
And it lasts
Goes
for like 5
hours
hours.
and hours and
oh,
hours.
so maybe we're getting close.
Yeah,
to the
you
real
were getting
thing.
close. It's an absurd game. I've said the thing about I'm a Christian, therefore I know what board games are. That's not necessarily true, but it is a funny percentage. And actually, in that classroom, the guys that were Christians knew all the board games, and everyone else didn't have any idea what was going
That's
on and had
interesting.
never seen them before. And I thought that was really interesting.
Is that because like more people are going out
Yeah, we'll go on like
clubbing?
well, yeah, that like the way they hang out is
Yeah.
not necessarily the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found that I had a good chuckle at that.
I struggle with board games. I like board games, but I like playing them, but I struggle to get. We've talked about this before. I think when I did a week away episode, but Brad and I I'm like, unless I get really into a board game, I'm not going to invest the time to get started. Like I'm not sure if it's going to be good enough. So why would I bother learning it and getting into it?
Yeah,
Mine's just the time. It's just like, I don't want to sit there for 5 hours.
Yeah.
I've been tricked before. I've been hurt before.
Yeah.
By too many of these games. Oh, it's just, as Heath mentioned, maybe it's just our particular age demographic friend group are quite into board games, and therefore the ones that they are often excited to play are
very long.
They're not always long, but they're often like ones that are
Very
for
involved.
advanced board game players.
Mm.
And so, as much as I want to sit there and lose for 3 hours and know that I'm going to lose from the first minute, sometimes I'll feel like doing that. Other times, I'd rather just hang out.
I think you're right. I think that's the other reason I don't like. Unless I know that I can be reasonably competitive, I don't want to invest the time.
That's fair.
So
That's
I live my life.
I think one of the cool things about uni, in despite the, it ties back to some of the stuff we were talking about before, is that so much of that degree was really creative and really intentionally free
I like that. Yeah.
in that creativity. So every semester we would have a subject where the subject was pretty much make a thing, put it on the internet, see what happens. Now it had a technical word, and there was lectures, and there was lots to learn in that. But at the end of the day, it was can you make something and learn how to either make it work or be okay with it not working. And that was really cool. And they were all iterative design subjects. And some people hated them and treated them as the bludge that they probably were. But I actually really loved, like they were the highlights of my uni degree, because I was able to actually, you just get freedom with no, like if you fail and you reflect properly about that failure, you can still get a high distinction. Like it's not, the thing you make wasn't the thing that you were getting marked on.
It wasn't have to like write a really good essay.
It was the way you were it wasn't like a design degree where you have to make a really cool thing and then justify why it's cool, and then someone looks at it and goes, "This looks crap," and I'll get rid of it, even though I put all this time into it. I don't know if that's actually accurate of what it was like, but that's the vibe I would imagine.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure.
Such a long
But it wasn't. What I'm trying to say
It
is,
was a while ago.
and a film degree would have been the same, right? A film degree and a creative writing degree, like you're actually getting marked on the thing you're making, whereas this wasn't that. You're actually getting marked on the way you make it and the
way.
and the way you think about it.
That's interesting.
And I have been able to bring that really helpfully into the rest of my life, which has been really cool. And I can't say that about heaps of other skills I got at uni, but I can say that, that to this day, iterative thinking and iterative design, like, really has changed the way I think about success and the way I think about creativity and the way I think about, like, even ministry is so different if you're not focused on getting it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've learned about this thing called ignorance debt, which is really, it's just the cost you have to pay to get better at something. And it's similar to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually how we learn, but we're often tricked into the idea of, like, anyone that's good at anything, like Brad and I were just talking about skateboarding before, you see, like, even skate videos, you don't see them stack as often, right? But they've stacked 30, 40 times on this rail that they're doing, for example.
Yep.
And it's the same thing as that you can only get better by actually having to do something, but you have to then just do it and see what failed, reflect, and then do it again and do it again. And so that's a really important skill to learn, I think. Yeah,
Totally. And I think, it's the thing that the refrain that they had as they taught all the subjects was fail early, fail often.
Yeah.
And the idea was, if you learn how to fail, it's like riding a skateboard, actually. So much of riding a skateboard is learning how to fall off and not get hurt. And so if you learn how to fail and not get hurt, and you do that at the start, because if you fail early and fail often, the later, like, product is going to be heaps better, heaps faster, because you failed quicker. So you make decisions and you do, and you don't. And I said that I've learned a lot about ministry in doing that. I don't think you necessarily want to, like, do lots of failing in ministry, but sometimes you got to try something, and if it doesn't work, you got to.
That's experimenting, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's really cool from a creativity process perspective.
You said that it taught you, like, to fail often and to do that. Were you not like that prior? Like, it taught you to do it more?
I don't know. I just don't think I had thought about the fact that it was okay. Like, I just thought everyone who puts something out
Just did it, like, first time.
gets it right the first time.
Yeah.
And, like, particularly internet virality, for example. Like, sometimes people just make a thing and then boom, it's exploded, and they've done it. And what this course was trying to teach us was actually, what you do is you just keep trying stuff, and then it does happen.
Yep.
There's some other elements within that, but it like sport, like music, like video editing, I guess. Like, you need to fail a lot before you figure it out. And failure is not necessarily. It's not that I was scared of failure, but I didn't think I liked the fail early bit and fail often bit. It's like, oh yeah, I'll get a few failures under my belt and then I'll figure it out. But it's actually no. Like, let's
Repeat it.
let's do it. Like, let's try for that, because that was what the subjects were. The subjects were like, are you being risky enough to figure out if you're failing? Because you're not going to get a big enough grade if you don't. Like, if you just sit there and you go, oh, I made a Twitter account and I posted once a week and nothing happened. And you're like, oh, it was a failure because da 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 da.
Because I didn't do it.
Tick. I get a credit. I get a pass.
Yeah.
Sorted. Probably a credit because it's my degree. But actually, instead, it's like, actually, how can I push myself to do enough creatively to actually fail? How can I be trying enough to actually fail? Because otherwise, I'm just going to put a thing on the internet and see what happens and just repeat over and over again, and that's not how it works. You can't just do that. You gotta be, and that, I think, for the help of it being on a podcast, I think that's a thing that I've learnt about, life stuff. Like you actually need to be able to take risks when you do stuff. And in ministry, you can't just do stuff because you've been doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to learn, and B, you're not going to change. And you need to be able to do those things. If as long as, of course, your theology is grounded in the same place and is solid, and that's part of the reason I think going to Moore College at the moment is so important, is because I want to get that right.
Yeah.
So that when it gets to the fun ministry stuff, we can throw stuff at a wall and see if it sticks. And when
Literally.
it doesn't, literally, and when it doesn't, that's okay. And I think that goes for, like, I have mates who have done heaps of different, like I at one point, because the old gig economy, I was doing 6 jobs at the same time. And that was brilliant fun. And that was, some of them failed, some of them worked, some of them didn't. I worked for myself for 3 years, and in those 3 years, I probably had 3 different jobs for myself, if that makes sense. I was freelance video editing. I was making videos specifically for churches, so I was going to different people's churches and making videos. And I was freelance like video making, which is different. Like it was under different things. And in that time, I learned, like, for example, I started with video making, and I'm like, I'm not getting any jobs, but I could get heaps of jobs editing. And then I was like, oh, well, and there's a big space for churches, but that didn't work either, right? And so it was just this thing of like needing to learn, like being comfortable with the failure at different points to be able to go, actually, they're all pushing me in the same kind of trajectory. And it meant that I could have 6 jobs was a bit intense, but I could do that because of this idea that actually, like, failure is okay, but iteration is important. And learning on the job is important. And
And I think through ministry, like thinking specifically of like the online gatherings, or with us together with the Friday gathering, or late night, or the youth team, or like name a bunch of other things that you've done in ministry, we've done in ministry. Like, we have been blessed with, through the Shock Absorber, a lovely amount of freedom to get to make decisions and see them through and fail or succeed and pivot and move and have ideas. And I think that has been the blessing of being at this church during that period. I think that's your uni degree taught you a lot about iterative design, but I think also you got to live it a lot over those years.
Which,
and still,
and I think that's one of the big differences between, like, the guy talked about the idea of doing that subject and just making a Twitter account and just sitting on it. Like, not only were people doing that, but they also weren't living it. Like, they weren't going into the rest of life and figuring out how to do it in whatever they were making. Because it is outside of just the creative process. It is actually a way you can actually be saturated in it and by it. Which has been really fun. Like, I think that's another thing. It actually makes it heaps of fun. Like, all of the, like, uni was fun, church is really fun, and maybe it's because there was heaps of freedom in all those. Work was really fun. And maybe because there was freedom in all of those places, and maybe that's just a huge blessing that I've been given, that I haven't been bogged down by that kind of thing. But it's been really awesome to do that all through life. It's been really cool.
What lots of people find it, that transition from, I guess we'll count year 13 as like a continuation of things, into uni, and like sticking around at church and doing that. What do you think helped you prioritize ministry and keep that involved as part of your life? Because it can often be a thing when people hit uni that you go through some changes. What kept that at the center for you? Because it seems like you made uni, you picked subjects because of when they were, because of ministry.
Yeah, totally. There was a really cool conversation I had with someone who, when I was trying to, someone was explaining the Sabbath to me, and explaining that what the Sabbath was someone dedicating a day to the Lord. And that happens through rest, but that also happened through spending. And what did that rest look like? Well, that rest looked like spending time with Him and His people. So that's why Sundays were so special. Is in the history of the church, you will go to church on Sunday and then you rest all day. And actually, people hung out all day and then they went to church again in the evening. Like that was what was happening for a lot of history, and that was what the traditional a traditional Sabbath has been. Particularly in the West. And we're talking about that. And as an extrovert, rest is good, but I also get heaps of energy from hanging out with people, which we've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about. And I think that what I sat down and was able to do was go, actually, I'm going to give God a day a week for the rest of my life. And that's not just because I'm extroverted, but because that's what I've been called to do. And so what does that look like? I think it looks like I thought when I was going through uni that it looked like making the sacrifice of I'm going to give God my Friday, because Berea was on Friday and youth was on Friday. And so stuff I was already doing was on Friday. So why not just make it a whole day? And I was fortunate enough to be invited by the staff to be a part of that through the Berean internship, which I did for like 5 years instead of the 3 I was supposed to do it for. And that was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And it was such an awesome decision, and I grew so much. And it really helped focus my priorities when I actually actively was sacrificing stuff to do stuff on a Friday. So I was sacrificing work. I didn't do work on Fridays. I was sacrificing uni. I was missing subjects and stuff with friends. And I was missing parties on a Friday night. And I was missing some other stuff. And that was all because I was just like, I think it's really important. And we're actually called to give God a day. And I was like, I'm going to give Him my Friday. I thought that was really good. And I think that my encouragement to people would be to, in whatever form you can, give God a day. And for a lot of people, that they're at a stage of life where that's on a weekend. And so, but make it a weekend. I think one of the interesting things that we heard at not the week away we just had, but the week away before, that really stuck with me was it who spoke at that? Was it Hayward?
Yep.
Yeah. He said that
No, it was Dicker.
Was it Dicker?
Mike Dicker.
Mike Dicker?
Last time, yeah.
One of them said that the Shire is filled with people that Shire Christians are described as the same as the rest of us, just a little bit more busy. The context of the story was he was at a soccer game for his kids, and he was chatting to the parents on the sideline, and the parents on the sideline said, "Oh, you're a Christian. You're just like the rest. You're just like the rest of us, but you're a bit more busy." And he was like, "Oh, is that what we look like?" It was just this thing of like, actually, yeah, we do. We just like we don't sacrifice. Sometimes we don't sacrifice anything. We just add stuff. We're like, oh, well, I'm going to do all of the things that I want to do and I want to do for my family. I'm going to do the 17 sports. I'm going to get the jobs. I'm going to get the whatever. I'm going to get the money. I'm going to get the friends. I'm going to do all the stuff. And I'll fit church in there as well. And even if I'm doing all of that and prioritizing church, that's good. But what the point of the thing that was talked about was actually what we don't do is think we can sacrifice any of that. Like fortunately I work at a church, and so it's a bit easier for me to say this, but I don't play soccer on a Sunday when church is on. I will rock up late to games and people go, oh, okay, he was at church that morning. That makes sense. Like that is a sacrifice that I make. And then that was what Friday looked like. And now now I work at church. It's awesome. I have more time to do that. But I didn't work at church for a long time. And I'm really passionate about the fact that I think, it's really important to, one of the things that differentiate us from the rest of society, from the world, is that we've given God stuff. We're not just
over something else.
Over something else. We're not just normal people who have church as well.
Yeah, it's not just an addition.
It's not just an addition that we fit in or we add on. And I think it can really look like that. And I've strived to make it not look like that. Also, it's heaps of fun. Like, so much fun. Which has been very helpful. It's a lot easier to sacrifice for something if the thing you're doing is really fun.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I find like the more that I commit to church, the more everything else is really exciting.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
yeah.